Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, we are from Group 7, and here we will present the material about discourse and culture. I am Siti Khairani as the moderator, and my three other partner is Dalva, Fahmi, Salma. And next to the material, first content is about discourse analysis, and it will be presented by Dalva. Dalva, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Here I will explain about discourse analysis. Speakers have to organize the structure and content of what they want to say. They have to package their messages in accordance with what they think their listeners do and do not know, as well as sequence everything in a coherent way. If the speakers decide to write out their message, creating written text, they no longer have listeners providing immediate interactive feedback. Consequently, they have to rely on more explicit structural mechanism for the organization of their text. In this expanded perspective, speakers and writers are viewed as using language not only in its interpersonal function, but also in its textual function and also in its additional function. And investigating this much broader area of the form and function of what is said and written is called discourse analysis. Okay, discourse analysis covers an extremely wide range of activities from the narrowly focused investigation of how words such as oh or well are used in casual talk to the study of the dominant ideology in a culture as represented, for example, in its educational or political practices. When it is restricted to linguistic issues, discourse analysis focuses on the record or spoken or written of the process by which language is used in some context to express intention. Within this structural perspective, the focus is on topics such as the explicit connection between sentences in a text that create cohesion, or on elements of textual organization that are characteristic of storytelling, for example, as distinct from opinion expressing and other text types. However, within the study of discourse, the pragmatic perspective is more specialized. It tends to focus specifically an aspect of what is unsaid or unwritten yet communicated within the discourse being analyzed. In order to do the pragmatic of discourse, we have to go beyond the primarily social concern of interaction and conversation analysis. Look behind the forms and structure present in the text and pay much more attention to psychological concepts such as background knowledge, beliefs, and expectation. In the pragmatics of discourse, we inevitably explore what the speaker or writer has in mind. And next slide, please. The next material is about coherence. Generally, what language users have most in mind is an assumption of coherence, that what is said or written will make sense in terms of their normal experience of things. That normal experience will be locally interpreted by each individual and hence will be tied to the familiar and the expected. In the neighborhood where I live, the notice in example 1a, plant sale, means that someone is selling plants, but the notice in example 1b doesn't mean that someone is selling garage. Although these notices have an identical structure, they are interpreted differently. Indeed, the interpretation of 1b, garage sale, that someone is selling household items from their garage, is one that requires some familiarity with suburban life. This emphasis on familiarity and knowledge as the basis of coherence is necessary because of evidence that we tend to make instant interpretation of familiar material and tend not to see possible alternatives. For example, the question presented in 2 is easily answered by many people. How many animals of each type did Moses take on the ark? If you immediately thought of 2, then you access some common cultural knowledge, perhaps even without noticing that the name used Moses was inappropriate. We actually create a coherent interpretation for a text that potentially doesn't have it. We are also unlikely to stop and puzzle over a male and a female, what as we read about the accident reported in example 3. A motor vehicle accident was reported in front of Kennedy Theater involving a male and a female. We automatically fill in details, for example, a male person driving one of the motor vehicles to create coherence. We also construct familiar scenarios in order to make sense of what might first appear to be odd events, as the newspaper headline in example 4, Man robs hotel with sandwich. If you created an interpretation for 4 that had the sandwich, perhaps in a bag, being used as if it was a gun, then you activated a kind of background knowledge expected by the writer, as confirmed by the rest of the newspaper article. You may, of course, have created a quite different kind of interpretation. For example, the man was eating the sandwich while robbing the hotel. Whatever it was inevitably based on what you had in mind and not only on what was in the text in. That's all from me. And the next material is will be presented by Silti Alhairan.
Okay, thank you, Delva. And the next material is about background knowledge. Background knowledge refers to the pre-existing understanding of concept, situation, ideas, and vocabulary that readers can draw upon when reading. This knowledge can be general or specific, and it plays a crucial role in helping readers comprehend and make sense of a written text. Strong web background knowledge enables readers to make inference, understanding idioms and expressions, and choose the correct interpretation of text. It is particularly important for supporting multilingual learner and can help level the playing field for all reader by filling gaps in knowledge that may have been acquired outside of school. Next slide, please. And how to build background knowledge? This is some strategies to build background knowledge. The first one is activating prior knowledge. This is helping the writer to reflect on their prior knowledge before reading to prepare them to use it and make connection to new information. The second is explicitly teaching new knowledge and providing direct instruction on new concept and ideas to ensure the writer understand the material. And the third is connecting vocabulary. This is linking vocabulary words to existing knowledge by organizing them into categories or using analogies. And the third is focusing on content before skill and strategies. It's teaching specific topics in depth before introducing comprehension skill and strategies. And the last one is emphasizing concepts. Is building a strong foundation of knowledge by focusing on key concepts and ideas. That's all for me. And the next material is cultural schemata and will be presented by Salma.
Okay, so next is cultural schemata. Cultural schemata are structures of knowledge we have to understand the world based on our cultural background. They shape how we understand and respond to situations, events, and social interaction based on the experiences we have within our culture. Cultural schemata are like mental frameworks or templates that we develop based on our cultural background. These frameworks help us interpret and make sense of the world around us. They are formed through our interactions, upbringing, and exposure to the customs, beliefs, and values of our culture. Imagine growing up in a society where punctuality is highly valued. Your cultural schema regarding time might emphasize the importance of being on time for appointments or meetings. Consequently, you may feel frustrated or uncomfortable when others from a different cultural background are more relaxed about timekeeping. Similarly, Cultural schemata influence how we perceive and react to various situations. For example, gestures or expressions that are perfectly acceptable in one culture might be considered rude or inappropriate in other. Understanding cultural schemata can help us navigate cross-cultural interactions with greater sensitivity and awareness. In essence, cultural schemata serve as a lens through which we view the world, influencing our perceptions, behaviors, and interactions. They are essential for forming our identity and shaping our understanding of ourselves in relations to the broader cultural context. And for example, here are the sentences such as, "You have 5 days off. What are you going to do?" The sentence above was asked during the Easter holiday by an Australian citizen to a Vietnamese worker working in Australia. Due to the differences in culture between Vietnam and Australia, the Vietnamese has a different cultural schemata than the Australian. The Vietnamese interpreted the phrase 5 days off to mean being laid off instead of having a 5 day holiday, whereas the Australian intention was to revert to a 5 day Easter break. In the following sentence, "What are you going to do?" the Vietnamese thought it meant to inquire about their next work plans. Meanwhile, the Australian intended to ask about the activities planned during the Easter holiday. Sometimes something good in one person's schema can sound like something bad in another's. Maybe that's all from me. Next material will be explained by my friend.
Okay, I will explain about cross-cultural pragmatics. Cross-cultural pragmatics is an area of linguistics that studies natural language used in a cons- constructive perspective accounting for cultural factors. Natural language here is interpreted in its relation relation to culture. And for example, religious papers focuses on the application of pragmatics in for example, religious paper focuses on the application of pragmatics in critical discourse analysis, specifically analyzing gender related assumptions in a lifestyle magazine text. Denin and Bong studies explores the the interaction between magazine text, uh, Denian and Bong study explores the interaction between the educators and instructional designers from different cultural backgrounds in an online professional development courses, highlighting the role of national and organizational cultural differences. And these examples demonstrate how cross-cultural pragmatics and discursive studies examine the influence of culture on language use and communication, addressing issues of power, ideology, and cultural differences in various contexts. Maybe that's all from me. Next to moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for presenter, and all the material has been presented about the discourse and what is it about the discourse and what That's it. Maybe that's all from our presentation. More or less, I apologize, and that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.